Well, good morning. We're here at Dekle Beach in Taylor County. I'm joined by Kevin Guthrie, Florida Division of Emergency Management, as well as the Administrator for FEMA, Deanne Criswell. And then, of course, Major General John Haas is our Adjutant General for the Florida National Guard, and here he comes now. We, in this part of the state, we saw really monumental storm surge. We're not going to be able to have the firm numbers right now, but that'll happen. But I mean, clearly you saw storm surge in excess of 15 feet. So that is much, much more significant than what we've seen in recent storms like Idalia that hit, and certainly Debbie. And that is really, really destructive. So as you look around here, you see some homes that are now just rubble. This stuff's coming in, it's fierce, and it just is unstoppable. So there's a lot of damage that we're seeing here, and I was able to, with Kevin, we were in Perry yesterday meeting with some of the local officials, and then we flew to Cedar Key, but on the way to Cedar Key, we flew over the entire coast. And I remember doing that after Idalia, and I remember seeing damage, and I walked the streets after Idalia in some of these areas, but this one was, it was like, wow, you see some just complete obliteration for homes. So this is something we now have overall in the state. There have been 11 confirmed storm-related fatalities, and that ranges from things like traffic fatalities to people that were impacted directly by storm surge, but no fatalities as of now in Taylor County, which is where the storm made landfall and which had the most storm surge. So, one, I just think that that's a credit to the folks here. A lot of the residents really heeded the call. You had a lot of your local officials that were working very constructively to be able to make sure that people were safe. And if you told me there was going to be 15, 18 feet storm surge, it may end up being where it reached 20. That's possible. If you had told me that even with best efforts, I would have assumed that we would have had multiple fatalities. And so as hard as it is to see a home destroyed, as hard as it is to have people displaced, if somebody perishes in one of these, there's no way you can fix that. So I want to just thank everyone who's been involved with that. It's really, really important. And the folks here in Taylor really worked hard to protect the lives of their citizens. And clearly in difficult circumstances, it paid off. We have across the state, and the state has led some, state has coordinated with some, locals led others, rescue missions to help bring people to safety. That's all been all up and down the Gulf Coast of Florida. You've had thousands of missions that have been completed since the storm arose on Thursday. Since we started getting the first impacts of Hurricane Helene, we've now had power restored to 1.94 million customers, and we have 457,000 without power as of this morning. Duke has 200,000, the co-ops 143,000 out, FPL 50,000, 44,000 for the munis, and 17,000 for TECO. We anticipate those numbers to continue to go down throughout the course of the day. Now, there are some areas where you're going to have to rebuild the infrastructure. And so Kevin and his team, we've worked hard to have this mutual aid available. That mutual aid is gonna go. People say, oh, it's going to take, X number. Well, maybe it would under normal circumstances, but if you surge additional resources, you could get the stuff rebuilt quicker. And so we're committed to doing that. I think it's a good use of resources. And so there are some pockets, particularly that were in the direct path of the storm, that may need to have a rebuild. But as of 9 a.m. this morning, almost 2 million have been restored, and about 457,000 are currently without. And, we're here a little bit more than 24 hours, 36 hours after the storm. And, of course, as you'd imagine, the counties that are most significantly impacted in terms of the percentage that are out are the counties that were in the direct path of the storm. Taylor, Suwannee, Madison, Lafayette, Jefferson, Gilchrist, Hamilton, Dixie, Columbia County. So folks are working on all those. We've now cleared over 12,000 miles of roadway that had debris from the storm, and we've cleared I-10. That was cleared in about 6 hours after the storm. Bridges, over 1,400 bridges have inspections, and so those have been reopened accordingly. Tampa, all the major bridges are reopened, all the airports are reopened. We have folks that are still responding as need be with Florida Highway Patrol. Of course, we have Florida National Guard, our state guard, that are there doing whatever needs to be done to help folks out. Post-storm, yes, we've got a lot of people who've had power restored, but there's still a lot of people without. When you're using generators, make sure you're using those generators properly. Do not run your generator inside your home. It's got to be outside the home. Please keep it a safe distance away from any doors or windows. The carbon monoxide could kill you. Housing. Obviously, you look here, people are going to be, if this is your primary residence, you're going to be displaced, because even some of the homes, you look up, some are totally destroyed. You look up some that are really built high on the steel beam, or on the concrete beams. They look fine from the street, right? And maybe they are, but you don't know if there's been some swaying. You don't know if any of those are even inhabitable. So people are going to be doing that. So there's going to be a need for housing mission. Overall in the state, there's obviously options that people can do. Visit Florida, our emergency accommodation modules for Expedia and Priceline. They are still open and available for people that had to evacuate, can't get back to their home, or have their homes that are uninhabitable, and they're going to continue to provide that for the users. Now, places like here, we're in Taylor County, this is not like the Pinellas County beaches where you have hotels everywhere. There's not going to be hotel rooms that are going to be able to accommodate the people that have been displaced. So Kevin Guthrie, he'll talk about it in a minute, but we spearheaded our own temporary housing program a couple years ago. We have things like travel trailers that are available. Now, sometimes people have that on their property and they rehab a home. Some of these homes, obviously, I think you're going to have to start from scratch. But nevertheless, Kevin is focusing here on these communities that were the most severely impacted for those temporary options, and we want to make sure that we're utilizing that program that we developed a couple years ago. Please listen to your local officials. I think that here in Dekle Beach, the residents are allowed to come back. I think in some parts of the state, maybe the local officials have made the decision not. Look, that's their call. I mean, clearly, we want people to be able to get back to their homes as soon as possible. It's really important that they can take stock of whatever damage, get back in if they're still in decent shape. And here's a little bit more difficult, but there's other places where there may have been some more modest damage where people can deal with that immediately. So hopefully that'll happen. Now, in the meantime, if you're in the need for non-emergency information, we have a state assistance information line, 1-800-342-3557, 1-800-342-3557. That is non-emergency information that you may need. If you need assistance, non-emergency assistance through some of the resources that we either provide at the state level or with these private sector partners, you can call the Hope Florida line. Hope Florida has had this. This is something that is part, not even necessarily storm related. We're now doing the Activate Hope buses, so you're going to see that Activate Hope bus, I think in Taylor today, is that there's going to be one in Perry. Activate Hope will be there. I think it's also going to be in either Madison or Hamilton counties. I think Madison. And what Activate Hope is doing is, if you go there, they can point out all the different resources, in particularly the private sector, that are available. For example, we've got groups that come in and provide hot meals. We've got groups that come in and help to fix homes. If you have a roof problem or you need a muck and gut, all that. So Activate Hope will be a node for that. And so if you want to call, and this had been like a 9 to 5 thing, and they came to me and said, give out this number. And a couple days ago, I said, okay, well, what are the hours on this? Well, 9 to 5. I'm not giving out a number 9 to 5. I was like, when you have a hurricane bearing down, we got to expand it to 24 hours for at least a limited time. So for 2 weeks, it's going to be 24/7 for the Hope Florida line, and that is 1-833 get Hope, 1-833 get Hope. So it's going to be Taylor County High School today, Bridge Church in Madison County today, and will likely be in other parts of the state as we go on. So we are mindful, before I turn it over to Kevin, mindful of the fact that, these storms clearly are difficult, and it doesn't matter which storm. You could go back all the storms we've had in the last 30, 40 years. They all present a challenge. They all cause damage in different ways. But certainly being here in this community, it is unique to have had a storm 13, 14 months ago that was a major hurricane. Seems like it was, not as big of a deal compared to what we just went, but it was a big deal. It was a big storm, Idalia. Then you've had economic dislocations with things like mill closures, and then you had Debbie, which was not a major hurricane, but still coming on almost the exact same path. And then you've had Helene coming on a very similar path as well. So that's been an awful lot thrown at one community in just a 14, 15-month time period. And so I'd ask all Floridians, keep the folks here in your thoughts and prayers. This is clearly going to be a focus point for Kevin and his team as we look to stabilize the situation and chart a way forward. So thanks, everybody, for all the hard work that you've done. I know it hasn't been easy, but people have been working around the clock. And the fact that we're here in Taylor County looking at all this monumental damage, and yet you didn't have a fatality here in the county, that's a testament to, I think, the folks here and the people that were working really hard to keep everyone safe. Okay, I'm going to now bring up Kevin Guthrie.
Thank you, Governor. Appreciate your support and leadership. The State Emergency Response Team continues to work on search and rescue operations. If you do need help with reunification, that is something that we're starting to get a lot of questions on. If you need help with reunification, the Red Cross helps us in that area, and they have the reunification assistance line. So that number is 1-800-RED-CROSS. That's 1-800-733-2767. Again, 1-800-RED-CROSS. Crews are working around the clock to clear the roadways, repair critical infrastructure. We are working on getting our points of distribution open, and I think today, John, you have 31 open throughout the state. The Florida National Guard, Florida State Guard help us with that, including some right here in Taylor County. Right about now is when bad people start to prey on good people. So start looking out for scammers. Start looking out for people that are not licensed contractors. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. If somebody wants all of their money in cash up front, tell them, see the door, come back, go back on the road you came in on. Please make sure you're doing those things. You have a lot of Florida National Guard that are here. If you encounter somebody like that, find somebody in camo. They'll get that up to their company commander. They will make sure that we start investigating that, looking at that, and getting the right necessary resources from either the Department of Business and Professional Regulation and or the Florida Attorney General's office to come out here and start seeing what's going on. You can always verify a contractor by going to the Department of Business and Professional Regulations website at myfloridalicense.com. myfloridalicense.com, and check anybody's license. Of course, if you cannot find one of our soldiers or airmen or any local law enforcement, state law enforcement here, you can always call us and report that at 1-866-532-1440. That number again is 1-866-532-1440. If you receive damage to your home, please take pictures before you start any cleanup. Make sure you get pictures of high water marks. Take those high water marks both on the inside and outside of your home. Again, as the governor said, there may be down power lines in your area. Please stay away from them. Wear the appropriate safety gear during cleanup. and do not handle hazardous debris. What do we really mean by hazardous debris? Every now and then people have common household chemicals that are in their homes, bleach, ammonia, things like that. Be very careful handling those items. Sometimes at my house, they're all in the same bucket. All right. If that ends up mixing together, some of that is off gases, really, really bad things that could be fatal to you. So please make sure you're not handling those household hazardous chemicals. Make sure you call somebody to come in and look at that and get that handled for you. Practice heat safety as well as you begin your cleanup efforts. Most of us, when we woke up this morning, there was a nice cool breeze in the air, but that's going to be very, very quickly replaced by the hot and humid temperatures of Florida. So please make sure you're watching out for heat stress. If you need help with your cleanup efforts, I talked about this yesterday. I'm glad to tell you that once again the state of Florida has teamed up with the Crisis Cleanup Line. So we have a one-stop shop now for you for crisis cleanup. All of this debris that's got to be picked up, all of the stuff that's going on your property. 1-844-965-1386. Again, 844-965-1386. We're glad to partner with Crisis Cleanup and get that type of stuff done. So they will work on getting a nonprofit teamed up with you to come and help clean up your property. Avoid unnecessary travel on the roadways, as it's still very dangerous due to the debris that's on the road. Make sure you listen to your local authorities on updates for when it's safe to return to your home. As the governor has already mentioned, you can call for information only. They are not a response organization, but for information only, our State Assistance Information Line, again, 800-342-3557, and we can accommodate English, Spanish, and Haitian Creole on that line. The governor wanted me to talk specifically about housing, so I'm going to do that now. On the housing front, we have about 3 options that are in the hopper. So we'll start from the lowest and work up to the most significant. The first one is the state of Florida brought for the first time ever a state home repair program. What the governor does is he goes out and him and the First Lady work with places like Home Depots, Lowe's, and other big box lumber stores to get donated items, pay for those items, and then we work with nonprofit groups like the Southern Baptist Disaster Relief, who is already set up here in Taylor, Team Rubicon, and a multitude of other organizations to come in and start helping you out with muck and gut, taking that damaged sheetrock out, and start helping to repair your home. And it's a rough repair. I want to set everybody's expectation. They're not going to come in and paint. They're not going to put down new carpet. They're not going to put up, wallpaper or anything like that. They're going to get you roughed in, sheetrock, clean out the studs, help you with limiting the mold and mildew. That's the first step. So that's our state home repair program. The next step is the state's, what we refer to as non-congregate sheltering that the state of Florida does. These are travel trailers that come in. That is a 6-month program. FEMA has been very, very generous in the past and let us extend that from time to time on a case-by-case basis to up to 12 months. So that's the second one. We will bring those trailers in. We sometimes can do some donated trailers to help speed up the process, or if we've got a case where somebody needs to keep a trailer for a longer extended period of time, we can do some donations. But I want to set, especially right here on the beach inside of Taylor County, we cannot allow, Florida Building Code does not allow it, we cannot allow permanent travel trailer construction on grade here as your permanent solution. It's a temporary solution, but we want to help you get through that temporary onto what your permanent housing is going to be. A third program that will be available should FEMA declare individual assistance declaration is they will have for eligible applicants, again, eligible applicants may qualify for FEMA's direct housing program. That is a longer period of time. Again, ours is 6 to 12 months. And I'm sorry, Deanna and Robert, I'm putting you on the spot. 18. Okay. 18 months is their program. Now, they will look very similar. They will look very, very similar between the state's program and the federal program. In fact, we've actually even worked it out because I could get those sometimes cheaper than the federal government, that they will actually keep you in the same unit that is a state trailer, and then they'll buy the state trailer from me because I've already given them an instant cost savings. So you, the homeowner, may not see a transition, but you may very well transition from a state program into a federal program. So those are the 3 buckets. I want to let you know, and I think I can say this for Deanne, we want to move you into some type of housing program immediately, as fast as we can. State program's a little bit faster. The federal program is going to take a little bit of time to get turned on, but we want to get you to that point as fast as we possibly can. We're going to work together to get that done, and but that is our 3 programs: state home repair program, state housing program, federal direct housing program. And again, we've already got trailers on the way to Taylor County and portions of Levy County. That's happening today. We have staging yards in Central Florida, primarily for this area. It comes out of Marion County at the Florida Horse Park, so it's very close by. Those things are already starting to move today. So we'll get those in here to John at the Emergency Management Agency and start working with him as a local partner here and Sheriff Padgett to get those things done. So again, Governor, thank you for your leadership. I appreciate your help.
Okay, Administrator.
Thank you, Governor. Good afternoon or good morning, everybody. First, I just want to say on behalf of the President that we extend our deepest sympathies for those families that have lost loved ones as a result of Hurricane Helene, and to all of those who have experienced damages from this storm. We were able to move resources in here beginning on Monday of this week to support the state's response as needed. Things like our search and rescue teams, the Army Corps of Engineers, hospital assessment teams, and working with Director Guthrie, helping to augment the response across all of the different localities that were impacted by this. As we now move into the assessment phase, I'm grateful to be able to join the governor today to get a firsthand look at what some of these impacts are, hear some stories about what your challenges, what your concerns are as we go forward, and to help facilitate the gathering of data so when the governor submits his request for a major disaster declaration that we'll be able to move that through the steps very quickly. If and when the individual assistance declaration is awarded, I just want to let everybody know that we have a new program with displacement assistance, and I know many people have been displaced, and so if you have experienced any costs as a result of being displaced from your home, really gather those receipts, document the costs that you're incurring. Those now, many of those costs will be eligible under some of the changes that we made to our program earlier this year. As we continue through this process, as you heard from Director Guthrie, we'll continue to work side by side with his team to make sure that the federal resources that we can bring in will complement and augment the state resources and the state actions that are happening, and that we work with everybody through their own recovery process. We know that recovery is very complicated, but when we all come together, we can certainly make that a little bit easier. And we know that everybody has a very specific and unique situation. And so we want to ensure that our processes don't have this one-size-fits-all approach and that we work with you with your specific needs. And I understand that many people have been impacted now by multiple storms over the last 13 plus months, and we know what a hardship that can be. And so I've directed my team to make sure that we are trying to reduce as much of that burden, especially for those that have experienced multiple impacts from multiple storms, and make this as easy as possible to keep your recovery going. With that, I'll turn it back to you, Governor. Thank you.
So Kevin and his team, that housing mission is already happening. And normally, I mean, that would be something that would be weeks, if not months, after a storm. So I appreciate them working very hard on that. We understand that there's, especially in areas where there aren't as many temporary solutions available, period, you got to step up. And so they're doing that. So we're going to go from here. We are going to tour some other parts of the area. We're then going to fly down to Manatee County, and we're going to look at some of those areas on the coast. You know, you get hit with it here, you see the damage. That's it's something that I think people understand. A major hurricane, other parts of the state, it didn't come within 100 miles of them, and yet, you know, you had really significant impacts. And so there are impacts down there. So we're going to go take a look at that as well. But this is just the beginning. There's going to be a lot of work that needs to be done. We understand that. We do have the Hope Bus in Taylor today. In Perry, you're going to have the pods and all that stuff is going very, very quickly. So I appreciate the general for helping to facilitate that. So the waters, I know we've got meals ready to eat. I know we have the things that need to be put on target. So that will happen. Okay. Any questions?
Governor,
see all these houses here behind you that are just destroyed now after being hit so many times?
Well, I think it's the fact you get multiple storms, which is very, very difficult. And I mean, we got a massive state, right? And to have this one part get 3 storms, and then to have some of the economic dislocations that we've seen, I mean, it was a really, really difficult experience when they closed the plant right on the heels of Idalia, right in the same time period. So there's been a lot that I think the community's had to go through. It's not easy. It's very difficult. I mean, losing a home is huge. Losing an economic engine is huge. All these things, having to just deal with the storms. I mean, even if you don't lose your home, just going through them, it's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of things that happen. So it's been a difficult stretch. There's no question about it. But I also think that the folks here are very gritty and very resilient. It's not going to be easy. It's going to take some time to kind of get back to where everyone wants to be. But that will happen. It will happen. I can't tell you when exactly, but I'm confident that it will happen. It's just too nice of an area. Folks here are too hard working for that not to happen.
And with this being the 3rd storm that hit this county, some people are saying this is evident that this is a climate crisis here. This area hasn't been hit for years before. What's your response to that?
I wouldn't hazard a guess to say why the storms, have come here in the last year and a half or so. We have had times in recent history in Florida where we had no storms. 2006 to 2016, we didn't have any until Hermine hit. So these things are. So I don't know the answer. I don't think it's fair that you have one area that is gotten hit multiple times, and in ways these storms. You can have a certain strength of storm. Michael was a Category 5, devastating. It did not produce storm surge like this that we saw here. Some of the other ones that we've had, have done a lot of damage. Did not produce the type of storm surge that you've seen here. Why did that happen? Why here and not some other? I mean, you go a little further west from here, and right off the eye even, the surge was not even close to what it was here. It's kind of that nasty side of the storm just got absolutely walloped. So no one asked to be put in this situation. I don't have the explanation as to why we would have storms that would track into this particular part of Florida over a year and a half period. But what I do know is there's work to do, and so we're going to get back about the business of doing it.
Devices that you've been expanding to the power systems, maybe around residential areas that might be in a direct path of a storm like this?
So we'll talk a little bit more about kind of how this was used here. It was, for example, used in downtown Live Oak because they have flooding. Like literally, you look at Debbie, they had another, I think it was called Debbie many decades, same exact result. And so they're like, okay, what can we do? So Kevin and his team work with them, and they set up. I think it worked.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so it worked, right? Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that putting flood protection devices is going to withstand 15 to 20 feet of storm surge, because it won't. But I think what those devices did is when you do have surge, when you have flooding, the water goes up a foot or two, you have those. It can be effective. Tampa General Hospital, they have flood protection around. We didn't do that. They did that themselves, but it's a similar thing. That's a low-lying area. You had 6 feet of storm surge, and they were fine with it. So yes, it's something that we're going to look at doing, finding areas that are in flood-prone parts of the state, that if you do have a storm coming, either provide or offer these flood protection devices, and perhaps even get creative about how we can generate some funding for that, because I think the reality is, if you went and you picked out like a bunch of homes that are insured by Citizens and you did this in certain areas, the claims would go down because the homes would be protected. Not gonna be able to withstand this here. But as you go further inland, particularly as you look on the coast that didn't get a direct hit and yet still saw water rising, that's a big deal, and it makes a difference. If you can block a couple feet of the water from going in someone's home, well, then they can go on about their business. You get a foot or two of water in someone's home, then you need a major muck and gut right there. And we saw that in St. Pete Beach. We were seeing, we saw in St. Pete Beach, I think there's other parts of the Pinellas beaches that were even more for surge. But we saw the water lines. So if you didn't know there was a storm and you just looked at some of the houses without a water line, you couldn't necessarily see outward damage, but the water line is up 2-3 feet, almost to the doorknob on some of the homes. Well, that is going to require a lot of work. So I think there may be a role in residential areas where you'd be able to provide protection. But I'm also not going to sit here and say that if you have storm surge of this magnitude in a coastal community, to have somebody that's right on the water, that probably is going to be enough. Mother Nature on this stuff, it's just incredible how powerful it was. So we're going to take stock of how that worked this time, and then we will work next time on some measures that will go, and we'll focus it on residential areas where people may have more limited means, not necessarily the high-end stuff where people could probably afford this on their own, but more of the blue collar in places that are vulnerable. Okay, we're going to go on a tour. We're going to look at some more of the damage here in Taylor County, and then we're all going to go down to the Tampa Bay area and Manatee County and survey the damage there. Thanks. Okay. Oh.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody for being here. Thank the governor for coming down. Every time we've had a catastrophe, he puts boots on the ground. He helps us. We have other sheriff's office here. This is to protect you and your family and you and your property against looters and people that come try to take advantage of you. I got some passes up at EOC. Drop by and get one of these here, strap it on your windshield. You can go and come. But we're going to keep these people out that's trying to take advantage of you. Again, thank you. Thank you for evacuating. I don't know how many lives were saved by that, but we hadn't found one person yet. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Good job.
Congressman, I'll throw in one more shameless plug. Some of the things that Kevin was talking about, there's bipartisan legislation that's going through both the House and Senate called the Disaster Survivors Fairness Act that would actually reimburse Kevin for a lot of the things with the homeless program.
Please, if I'm not on it, I'm surprised that it